Hi, my name is Darshan Patel, and this is my lab for Physics Lab 4, Oscillations. So in this lab, we will examine the motion of a spring mass system in which the mass swings in an arc while also oscillating on the spring. This motion contains some of the behaviors we see in extreme rope sports. While motion like this appears complicated, we will find that we can understand and predict this motion using the same techniques and fundamental principles explored in our video lectures. So the lab instructions and using tracker. So we used the already given video about a spring oscillating back and forth, and we extracted the position data for the mass at the end of the spring using tracker. We used the pre-lecture videos to obtain the values of the calibration stick length, the time between the video frames, and the physical characteristics of the system, like the mass, spring stiffness, and relaxed length. So this is an image of the tracker. You can see all the red squares that shows like the path of the spring, and you can see the X and Y and the time. We only use the X and Y for the Excel. So using Excel, we should only copy and paste the X and Y position of the mass, making sure to not include the time to the Excel spreadsheet. This is the position data of the mass that will be attached to the spring. Then we save the data into a CSV file, which will then be used later for the GlowScript code. When using Excel, we made sure to not have any column headers and that the only thing in the spreadsheet was numbers, as this will be important for the GlowScript code to properly read the CSV file. So this is some of the data that was in the Excel that we exported into the CSV file. Now using GlowScript. Using the starter code that was already provided for the computational model, we were tasked to make the necessary modifications to model the motion we analyzed in the video. The code would not run until we inputted a .csv data file, so after running the program, the file had to be uploaded to see the results. When the program runs, we should be able to see our computed motion and the tracker data. In particular, we should compare the predicted motion and the observed motion of the mass in both the X and Y directions and plot the energy changes that we computed in the model, the change in kinetic energy, the change in gravitational potential energy, and the change in spring potential energy, and the change in total energy. So this is the data that we got in the GlowScript. You can see the path of the mass on the top left corner, as well as the position versus time, and the Y position versus time on the right side of the slide. And you can see the overall change in energy versus time in the bottom left corner. So some of the analysis questions was the energy principle satisfied? The energy principle is approximately satisfied for the model system. This is supported by the energy plots where the changes in kinetic energy, delta K, and the gravitational potential energy and spring potential energy continuously fluctuate and transfer between each other, while the total energy remains very close to zero throughout the motion. The small deviations observed in delta E can be attributed to a numerical factor from the finite time step used in the simulation rather than a true loss or gain of energy. And for question 2, what were the two separate estimates of oscillation periods? So using the tracker data, the oscillation period estimated from the X position data is about 0.083 seconds, while the period estimated from the Y position data is about 0.188 seconds. These two values are noticeably different, indicating that the motion is not simple harmonic in a single dimension. Instead, the system undergoes two-dimensional oscillatory motion, where the horizontal and vertical components behave differently. The vertical motion is more strongly influenced by gravity and spring stretching, leading to a longer period, while the horizontal motion oscillates more quickly. This difference explains the discrepancy between the two period estimates. Thank you. This is the end of my lab video.